I was about 6 weeks off my 13th birthday.
So you can remember
I
the
can
Blitz?
remember it very well, yes. I don't have very many memories of my childhood, but that I do remember. Maybe I don't remember it all correctly. Other people might differ in their memories, but mine is quite clear to me.
What happened on the night then?
On the night, there wasn't, as far as I remember, a siren, a warning, but I remember my father sort of dragging me out of bed saying, "Come on, get downstairs." And we had a dining room with a big, I suppose it was oak table, a very heavy table anyway, and he and my grandfather, myself and the dog got underneath there, and my mother and my grandmother got in the cupboard under the stairs. And there we stayed while all this racket went on around us. There's an ACAT gun in the recreation ground just 4 houses along, so that was creating a noise. My father had been trying to mend a grandfather clock in the hall, and at the first bomb that started to chime, and it chimed all the way through. So the worst bit I can remember of that first part is, I think it must have been when they had a direct hit on the house at the top of Nerva Road, where the mother and 2 children I knew quite well were killed. Father was out on duty as a fireman, and the blast, we had a big greenhouse and it sort of destroyed part of it, but what it did do was blow out the French doors which were between the dining room and the greenhouse, and the table was hard up against them, and the dust that came through, I just remember pulling down this chenille tablecloth over my face just to keep out the dust because you couldn't breathe. And we stayed there until it eased up. Then we all came out from our sheltering places. I don't think we even had a drink or anything, because in my memory it didn't seem very long between the end of that first part of the raid and when the siren went for the second part. And when it went for the second part, we had a brick shelter down in the garden, which was a lower level than the house. And we all went down there, and luckily my father had pumped it out the week before because it used to fill with water. And while we were there, an incendiary landed on the roof, and I remember going out with him and put it in the bucket of sand. And then we just stayed there until the all clear went. We came back indoors, no water, windows blown out, the front door, which was a big heavy front door, was blown right through the hall, and upstairs the rubble was about 8-10 inches deep where all the ceilings had come down. So we just picked up a few bits that we needed. My father took my grandparents out to a daughter who lives at Sandown, and he was gone for such a long time. My mother was getting a bit frantic, but apparently there were unexploded bombs and all sorts of things on the way. So he came back, and then we went out there and stayed not that long, because with my father working at White's, it was a difficult journey to get through from Sandown to East Cowes by sort of 8:30 in the morning. So we moved back to Osborne Cottage, which is in York Avenue at the top. And at the time, another of my mother's sisters and her husband ran it as a hotel and club. And they had a room there, and we stayed there until our house was mended. But there were 1 or 2 amusing incidents. My father was back putting boards up at the windows to protect the house, and he heard somebody knock downstairs. Well, the front door had to be nailed back up. And he called out, "Sorry, you'll have to come round the back." And when he got down there, it was Lord Motterston, who was governor of the island at the time. So, yes, that was one of the amusing episodes that happened. But it just sticks in your memory when you've been through. And I'm not being morbid or sort of anything about it, but when you've been through it, you just do realise, especially the direct hit just around the corner, because the elder daughter, had just started at the grammar school. She was 11. Her husband was a fireman out on duty, and after all those years they had a baby of several months old, and they were thrilled to bits with this baby. And he, out on duty, was okay, and they had a direct hit, and all three of them were killed. And when you're 13, it's quite a lot to deal with psychologically. I can remember, not at the time, but a week or so later, being really distressed when it sort of, I suppose, suddenly hit me that all this had happened and all these people I knew had gone.
Were you expecting such a large attack that night?
No, my father, as I said, he was looking out of his bedroom window, which looked over the river, about 2 weeks before. And these German reconnaissance planes were so low he could actually see the swastikas on them. They were really, really low. And he said to my mother, "We're going to get it soon." And sure enough, within 2 weeks, we had the attack.
How loud was it? How noisy was it?
Very, very noisy. What with the clock chiming and the ack gun in the field next door, it was very, very noisy, yes.
Of course, the Polish destroyer was down by the wharf.
Big repaired, yes. They fired every round of ammunition on the ship, including small arms, so I'm told. But they saved the town, otherwise we would have been much worse off.
Did you see any of that?
Well, no, because first part of the raid, I'm under a big table. The second part, I'm in a shelter, and no one's going to go out and look around to see what's happening, because you're just waiting for it. Please let it stop.
The destruction afterwards, how badly was the area damaged?
Well, some of it really badly. Minerva Road was badly damaged. I think there was quite a lot of damage in Clarence Road. Some houses up here near Adelaide Grove, that end, were damaged. And there were sort of bombs that just dropped in odd places. My husband-to-be was at that time, he just joined the Home Guard, and he and another chap were sent to the bottom of name of the road's gone now. Just near us anyway. And at the bottom was a public house, and in the public house was an elderly gentleman. They were sent down to get him out, but an unexploded bomb had gone down through the roof, and when they went in, it had made a complete circular hole in the billiard table. They got him out and then rushed away, because a lot of houses in that road were damaged, but it was mostly blast damage. There was a lot more blast damage than direct hit damage, I think.
A lot is said about how Błyskawica defended Cowes. If it hadn't have been there, if the captain hadn't have been armed, because he was obviously doing it against regulations, what would have happened, do you think?
I think they just would have blasted the place to pieces, because if they have nothing to deter them, then they just go and drop their bombs and that would be it.
How much does the Isle of Wight owe then to those Polish sailors?
A great deal. Well, this area in particular owes a great deal to them, because it was built in Wight. My father probably worked on it. And the Grom was built there as well. As they really did save the town. There's no two ways about it, because if they hadn't been there, as they say, the Germans could have just dropped their bombs willy-nilly and that would have been it.
These destroyers were built in Cowes, and it's almost as if they came to rescue Cowes.
Yes.
It's quite poignant.
It is, isn't it? They built there and then defended it. Yes. I saw a lot of them launched. I used to go down and watch. One in particular was so long, it only just fitted across the river. And they had to have tugs to steer it round.
And as a 13-year-old girl, underneath that heavy table, I can't even begin to imagine what was running through your mind.
I think I just prayed, and I don't mean to be pious about that, but my mother had always taken me to church, and you're so scared, that's what you do. And, a lot of religion is a very personal thing, but a lot of people say, oh, that, rubbish, a lot of nonsense. But you put yourself in a situation like that, you've got to look to something. You can't do it on your own. At least I don't think so.
Is there a lot of, do people feel grateful to what the crew members did? Did they stay on afterwards?
Well, they stayed on until the ship was refurbished, obviously. Some of them married local girls. Yes, I wasn't in that bracket. I was a bit too young for that. But yes, I think that it's always been remembered. Every year there's something in their memory. But of course, this is a special time, 75 years, and it's a long way to go back and remember everything correctly. So I apologise to anybody if I've got things wrong. But,
your memories are beautiful, they're very poignant. Is it important to remember what happened?
I think so. I think it is important, and as I say, young people of today just think life is easy and they have what they want when they want. It was very different. There was rationing, you didn't have sweets, clothes were rationed, petrol. We had a car, which my grandfather's, and because they were both invalids and couldn't get on buses, they had a petrol allowance, but it was only small, so occasionally they could go out. But yes, it was, and you just lived with it night after night. It wasn't just that night, it was night after night beforehand and night after night afterwards, because they would come over and bomb Portsmouth and Southampton, and anything they had left on board they would drop on us. And all my revision for my O-levels at 15 I did in the shelter. So it was an ongoing thing. It wasn't just one night and it finished. No, it went on and on and on until the end of the war.
That night, nothing comparable to that night?
No. No, nothing comparable to that night.
Do you do you have grandchildren? Do you tell them about it?
I don't really. My daughter said we ought to record it and tell them about it, and I think two of them, they're mid-20s and the other two are in their mid-30s, and I'm not quite sure. Perhaps when I have departed this mortal coil they might be more interested in what happened, but I would, unless they asked me, I wouldn't say, do you know what happened? Because it's in the past, it's gone, it's in my memory, and maybe it has affected the way I've thought of life. But you can't evoke the feeling in young people who haven't experienced anything like it.
But the Isle of Wight is remembering in a very big way this anniversary.
It is. Yes, I think because a lot of places were bombed, as you go from here to Ryde or Newport, you come to a roundabout, and just as you go around the roundabout, between the Ryde Road and the Newport Road, there was a field. It was called the Point, and there was a house, two houses there, semi-detached, with families and children. And one of the, I'm not sure it was a night of the Blitz or not. Don't think it was, but one of these planes coming over dropped its load because the plane was damaged, and it's in the midst of nowhere. They had a direct hit and killed all of them. You know, how do you come to terms with things like that? You never do, really, do you? When you've sort of seen it firsthand, so to speak. But then, gentleman here has been to Afghanistan, so you must have seen dreadful things out there. But yeah, it just stays with you. I don't think about it every day. I mean, this has evoked all memories because of what's been happening. But you don't go around thinking, oh gosh, I was in the Blitz and this, that and the other happened. You just get on with life. That's what I was made to do anyway.
Just my final thought, it would have been an awful lot worse if it wasn't for the Polish destroyer.
Very much worse. Very, very much worse, yes. The town would have been just shattered, I think. So they did us an enormous favour.
Even though they were breaking regulations?
That doesn't matter in wartime. You don't live to regulations necessarily. They did what they thought was right, and it was right, which was to protect the town. And obviously they had some feeling for the town because of having been built here.